David Bowie was one of the most influential songwriters of all time, and just by examining his process, we can find endless tips and tools that we can use to improve our own songwriting. Here are 5 of my favourites. Hi, I'm Tony from SongWriters Chop Shop. Tip 1. Revenge is sweet. Bowie wrote Life on Mars as a sort of revenge for not having his lyrics picked for a piece of music that ended up becoming My Way by Frank Sinatra.
I was with a music publishing company and they were passing me songs that they wanted me to do a new set of English lyrics for, you know. One of them was this French song that I thought was really very good, and I wrote some really terrible lyric. I think it's called Even a Fool Learns to Love. Then I hear it on the radio. I thought, that's that tune, that must be my... I thought, no, these are different lyrics. And it was Sinatra singing My Way. And I was... I wrote the lyrics, what happened? I phoned them up and said, oh yeah, your lyrics were rubbish. And I said, I know that, but they're the ones I did. And they said, yeah, well, we got Paul Anka to do them instead, and this is My Way. And that really made me angry for so long, about a year. And eventually I thought, well, I can write something as big as that, and I'll write one that sounds a bit like it. And so I did Life on Mars, which is my sort of, you know, revenge trip on My Way.
If you look at the opening chords to both songs, they have the same progression. At the chorus, Bowie goes off and does his own thing. But why not try it for yourself and take revenge on songs that annoy you or that you don't think deserve to be hits? Take a chord progression, give it a different rhythm, and use it as a backing track to add your own content. Think how that song should have went and explore that idea by adding new chords or harmonic rhythms. Take a lyric line and rephrase it, generalize it, write the opposite, or just respond to it, and then write an afterthought. Writing an afterthought will give the lyric your point of view and maybe a new idea or even a theme, and they're not hard to do because we use them all the time. In conversations, commenting on things people have said, things we have seen, and even our own thoughts. For example,
I'm not afraid of anything in this world
except ghosts. Then you could try using ghosts as a theme. How about writing the rest of the song from the perspective of a ghost? Maybe a ghost that can't let go of their life or lover and now hangs around in limbo haunting them. Then what if that was a metaphor for a relationship that has died but hasn't ended yet? We live together but you don't even see me anymore. I'm like a ghost to you. There's a whole song idea just by adding an afterthought to a lyric. Not bad. A good way to start practicing afterthoughts is with bland general statements. Just come up with a few like, I'm miserable since my girlfriend broke up with me. Then come back in a day or two and add the afterthought. I'm miserable since my girlfriend broke up with me, but at least my wife is happy. Okay, so they don't have to be dad jokes, but give it a go. Then move on to famous quotes, old proverbs, any piece of text at all. Let me know in the comments what song you'd love to take revenge on. Tip 2. Paint the problem.
I break down the problem by actually painting it. I try and visualize what the problem was, that the sense of these textures were grating against each other in a way that wasn't admirable. And I try and visualize those textures and paint them, and then find out what was wrong. And then when I'd solve that problem, I'd take it back into the studio. And then I think, now I know what I'm trying to write, and I can go back and write
both musically and lyrically?
Yeah.
You can do this by painting or just sketching, cutting pictures up and making a collage, or even just use your imagination. Pick a specific problem or challenge and give it a color, shape and texture. Imagine what it smells and tastes like and how does it feel. Then, what are the textures, tastes, shapes, colors and sounds of possible solutions? If you want more creative problem-solving ideas, check out this video. Let me know in the comments what your biggest songwriting problem is and what color, shape or smell you would give it. Bowie understood the creativity paradox. A lot of people think being creative is all about inspiration and originality. Well, that's only half the story. Sure, you can wait for inspiration, but that's a bit like waiting for the wind to blow a winning lottery ticket into your hand. Human creativity and originality, more often than not, comes from the ability to recycle what already exists and to upcycle it into new, fresh, exciting ideas. Kind of like a mashup. Did you know the ring tabs on cans of soda were modeled after bananas? Or Velcro was modeled after sandburrs? Creativity becomes less of a mystery when you have methods that get you thinking more creatively, and Bowie had this down to a T. Pick 2 or 3 or 4 statements and arrive at a 4th piece of information from the rearrangement of the other statements. Replace the word statements with any idea, be it lyrical, melodic, harmonic or rhythmic, anything, and you have the basic formula for creative thinking. If you want to see how I use this, check out this video. Bowie was a true artist and had such a wicked sense of humor. One of the biggest steps you can take towards being a truly creative artist is to understand the difference between sincerity and seriousness. We've all been led to believe believe that to get anywhere in life, you have to take it seriously. But the fact is, inspiration and creativity go hand in hand with enthusiasm and play. Seriousness goes hand in hand with doom, gloom, and the illusion of control. So you might think you're a serious artist with something important to say that the world needs to hear.
I think the difference that most artists have, the ones that I come across, we tend to think our opinions are a lot more important than other people's in some way. That often we feel as though we have the key to something. I don't think that we do at all. I just think we dwell on it more.
You can be sincere and still laugh at your problems. How often have you laughed when you were being serious? So be a sincere artist that doesn't take the game of life too seriously, and watch how it affects your ability to find creative solutions to your problems, musical and otherwise. Tip 3. Music first. Tony Visconti, Bowie's longtime friend and collaborator, said, "It was normal for Bowie to pen a song's lyrics a month or two after the chord structure had already been figured out. We would work on the musical content to make the instruments come out with an empathetic arrangement or sound in order to invoke the desired emotion. Bowie preferred to start with the music and then ad-lib a melody line and write lyrics at the last minute. He would start with the end in mind. Building the music first would lead him to an emotional center that guided him through the rest of the songwriting process. There's a piece of advice in songwriting that gets thrown around a lot: write from the heart. And although I do agree with this, I also think it's not the full picture. Most think we have to be in the emotion that we're writing about, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it can be also too self-indulgent sometimes. Instead, if we think a successful song depends on the effect it has on the listener and not just the artist, things take on a different light.
The work is never finished now until the viewer contributes himself.
Consider this: you've just had a disaster in your life and you're feeling stressed, depressed, or just sad and down in general. And as a songwriter, you naturally think, oh, I could write a song about this and express those feelings, and everyone can relate to it because we all go through shit in our lives. Again, fair enough. But remember, we are humans, and as such, we all have these massive self-indulgent egos, and when other people sense this in you or your work, it tends to be an all too painful reminder of their own ego, and as a result, it can be off-putting to an audience. So now we run the risk of writing a sad song while we are extremely sad and getting lost in this self-indulgence. Artists do this all the time. Now, if you were to write a happy song while you were sad, it would give you a whole new perspective on happiness. Write a sad song while you're happy, and it goes from potentially being about how the world feels like it's about to end to, hey, it's not the end of the world, this too will pass. Just something to think about when playing with the emotional center you're writing from. It seems like Bowie would let the music dictate the emotional journey of the song rather than imposing a predetermined emotional state onto the music he was creating. I'm not saying one way is better than the other, but it might be something worth trying out if you usually try and write just from the heart. And I know you might think, hey, that won't mean anything, I have to write from the heart. And yes, what you write should be heartfelt, but also, since this isn't the Middle Ages, science has discovered that the human brain is designed to make connections. So even if we create randomly using this kind of mashup approach, our minds will seek to make connections, and that means it will seek to find meaning in what we do. Maybe this is how Bowie was able to come up with such interesting chord progressions. So many of them created suspense, as he would often build tension and tease us by not returning to the tonic chord when we expect it. Check out songs like Under Pressure and Life on Mars or Changes, and see how he used descending bass lines to create a sense of tension and an emotional journey that was all built into the music. And then he would often have inaccessible lyrics that the audience could read whatever meaning into them they wanted. All that just by letting the emotional center of the song be guided by the musical composition itself. Not a bad tool to have in your songwriting toolbox. Do you start with an emotion or let the music suggest an emotional center to work from? Let me know in the comments. These are not the only way to do things, but it might give you options to keep things fresh, write in a way that you're not used to, or even get you out of a problem you're having with a song you're working on. Just food for thought. Tip 4. Embrace the changes. Bowie once said, "What my true style was is that I loved the idea of putting Little Richard with Jacques Brel and the Velvet Underground backing them. What would that sound like?" Bowie used this mashup approach to creating by taking inspiration from different genres and smashing them together. Everything Bowie did seemed to be based on this, taking existing elements and mixing them up. From his image to his key switching chord modulations, he was a human particle accelerator shooting ideas at each other at the speed of light and reveling in the resulting collision. And as we've seen from the Frank Sinatra Life on Mars mashup, he did it his way.
All my life, I've been so eclectic all my life. I've been admiring of so many different people and so many different things that they've done. that it almost feel that I feel that I owe so many, people for the way that I think and do things.
And there's no better time for this. Never before has genre fluidity been so popular. So take genres and styles and particle accelerate them together. See what happens. Bowie, although well read, was not a hugely educated man. He was, however, a no bullshit, sensitive, creative and truly intelligent man that seemed to be most at home in ambiguity, paradox and creative tension.
That if you feel safe in the area that you're working in, you're not working in the right area. Always go a little further into the water than you feel you're capable of being in. Go a little bit out of your depth. And when you don't feel that your feet are quite touching the bottom, you're just about in the right place to do something exciting.
So learn to make friends with constant change. What would it be like if you particle accelerated the trap style of Travis Scott with the experimental style of Tom Waits and had the psychedelic rock style of The Doors backing them up? The only limit is your imagination.
Yes, never plays the gallery. I think always remember that the reason that you initially started working was that there was something inside yourself that you felt that if you could manifest it in some way, you would understand more about yourself and how you coexist with the rest of society.
So what artists would you like to particle accelerate together? Let me know in the comments. Tip 5, the cutup technique. So if you're a songwriter and a Bowie fan, you've no doubt heard about the cutup technique he used. In fact, you're probably sick of hearing about the cutup technique, so I'm not even going to go on about it. But I do want to make a suggestion of other ways we as songwriters can use that same idea. What if we took the idea and applied it to other areas of our songwriting, like chords and even melodies? As Bowie said,
what I've used it for more than anything else is igniting anything that might be in my imagination.
What if we took all the chords from a chord family and all the chords from its extended family, the modes? In the key of C, it would look something like this. We have our parent scale, or the Ionian mode. Then we also have the Lydian mode, Mixolydian mode, Dorian mode, the Aeolian mode, the Phrygian mode, and the Locrian mode. So what if we wrote them all out on a piece of paper, cut them up, and randomly picked out 4? No, Bowie rarely used 4 chords. So let's say we pick 7 chords. We can play around with them and decide what order to put them in, and the harmonic rhythm. The term harmonic rhythm or frequency is used to describe how frequently chords change in a song. For example, you might hold a chord for 1 bar, half a bar, 2 bars, whatever. We could also even pick this at random and play around with it. So technically, we're using borrowed chords and modal interchange to build a progression. And that's something to keep in mind when we start adding a melody. But if you're not familiar with a lot of theory, just let your ears be your guide. And there is another way we can decide what order these chords will go in. Bowie had a habit of using descending chromatic bass lines, so maybe we could arrange our chord progression based on that. Then when we have a chord order that we like, we can improvise a melody over it. Here's what I came up with: C, C minor, B flat, F minor, B diminished, C minor, A flat. I didn't have time to write lyrics, so I let the maestro himself take care of that. Here's how it sounds.
This is the truth. This is the truth.
Man hands misery onto man. It deepens like a coastal shelf. So get out as soon as you can and don't have any kids yourself.
This is the truth.
Do they fuck you up, your mum and dad? They may not mean to, but they do. And they fill you full of faults they have. And they add some extra just for you.